Hello, listeners, and welcome to another episode of Bridging the Gap. I'm your host, Eric Larson, and today we're sitting down with the leaders of the Coalition of Utah ABA Providers. So let's get into it. Let's start with introductions.
Hi, I'm Breanne Clement, and I am the president of the Coalition of Utah ABA Providers, and I own Apex Behavior Consulting, which has been in business since 2010. So have really grown up with Utah Behavior Services. We were some of the first providers to provide services, specifically behavior analysis services in Utah. And it's been really exciting to see the growth that has happened in the number of BCBAs. So we have just gotten big enough that we needed a coalition around Natalie, Sarah had been talking about it for a long time before Maria came onto the scene. But it took till 2019 to start the organization of providers till we got together. And that's how I came to be in it with, we did the meeting to develop the group, and then So Maria's the future president, but we're just really trying to bring providers together and have a singular voice and be noticed. We're a niche field. ABA is really effective, I think, for a certain group of people, but it is a smaller group compared to the others. So we really needed a voice in the legislature. That's where I'm going with that ultimately, because we're just small fish in a really big sea of mental health providers. And so we've done a lot of really good work in getting applied behavior analysis and autism services to be recognized as necessary, funded services to people. And it's been really exciting.
I'm Maria Caceres-Loveless. I am the owner and executive clinical director for Achieving Abilities. I've been a BCBA since 2012, been in Utah since 2011, and I am the current treasurer and secretary of CUAP, as well as the president-elect for CUAP.
Great. Thanks again for being here today. I really appreciate you guys taking some time to kind of get the word out about this organization and kind of what the intent and impact is for the communities and the families that we serve. So UTBS is also a part of CUAP.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just saying with UTBS, we have had that relationship because Natalie and Sarah, who founded UTBS, were both BCBAs around the same time. So, and we were some of the first. I think there were only 3 providers of when there was the waiver, and it was UTBS. Yeah. Us and like one other organization. No. So, I was just saying, there really became a need and a quick growth and changes in just mental health services, the state, meetings.
Okay. I remember when I moved to Utah in 2011, I looked for jobs. I was becoming a BCBA, and I was like, there's nothing here. There was literally
required.
There was maybe 2 or 3 companies, and I was like, oh geez, well, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but cool.
So with the formation of CUAP, that's basically an overall, each organization will band together to help represent this industry.
Yeah, to represent the industry.
What is what's your current
autism services?
Okay. As far as your mission goes, what do you?
Yeah, it's just to enhance the quality of applied behavior. I'm going to read it. Can I read it? The mission, yeah. Our mission is to enhance the quality of applied behavior analysis services in Utah through advocacy, education, and the promotion of best practice standards. So our advocacy is up at the legislature. And also they're promoting best practice standards. It's really important to educate the legislature on what our field is, how we really help people using applied behavior analysis to help people with autism and other challenges that they might have with learning.
Let's back up a little bit and share a little bit about your guys' individual journeys to put you in the position today where you are as president and president-elect CUAP. So let's kind of start about that. Like, what made you want to get into this field? And
I started working in the field in residential services for people with developmental disabilities, and randomly got a job. This was when out movement from the Utah State Developmental Center was happening. So a lot of people who had lived in institutions were coming out all at once, like in the 90s. And I was like young, early in my career. And I just got a job working with a highly aggressive man who had been released, I'm saying, but he really didn't need to be there, but it was a shock to his system. I think to be in like community services, living in an apartment complex, but I knew nothing about this field, but I was just really able to connect with that individual. Probably today he would have been diagnosed with autism. But at the time, he was just, I don't know, they called all kinds of things, aggressive. But I was one of the first people who could really work with him and confidently build the relationship. And so that just brought me into positive behavior support. And that was really important, I think, with that out movement of people from institutions and such that had really challenging behaviors. So anyways, I love that. That's how I got into it. So I just started going to school for it and ended up working at the state for a long time at DSPD support coordinator. I was behavior specialist. And then in 2010, I got my BCBA and I thought I could start a company off of it. And Medicaid didn't fund it at all. Insurance companies did not fund it at all. It was a real risk, but I knew that people could really benefit that just were not benefiting from traditional talk psychotherapies and cognitive behavior therapy. That just wasn't enough or working for people. And so, started Apex and then have just grown up as a business in the industry.
I guess I started by babysitting when I was really little, and I loved just kids. I always wanted to work with kids, and I always wanted to make a difference in kids' lives. So throughout my college career, kind of was searching for what that looked like. And in 2005, I started working at a school district in California, and it was in a classroom with kids with autism. And I just fell in love. I thought that was the best thing I could have ever done. And got my bachelor's in psychology and then kind of went, what do I want to do now? And then I went for a different career while I was still working in the field. And then one of my supervisors, when I decided I didn't want to do that anymore, that major, she just said, why don't you become a BCBA? And even though I had been working at that point for like 2 different school districts, an agency for ABA, I didn't know even what a BCBA was because there weren't very many BCBAs, even for supervisors at the time. And I just went, what's that? And when she started telling me about it, I said, wait, I can keep doing what I'm doing, just do it more and do it better. And so that's when I decided to go for my BCBA. And then moving to Utah, my husband's family is from here, so we decided to move, and that's kind of how I got, at least to my position of living in Utah and working in the field. So I've worked for, I think, 3 different agencies, 2 districts, and it's been a journey for sure. I hate to say that I just was working for different agencies, especially in California, and then when I first got here, and I just saw a lack of support in like following the ethical code within some of the agencies that I was with. And that's where I was like, I just need to start my own thing. And I always joke that like I really didn't look at like Utah Behavior Services, and I didn't know you guys existed.
Oh yeah,
so
why would you?
If so, I would have probably been like, never mind, I don't want to do it all on my own. I'll just join somebody else.
I mean, I don't know. Apex didn't get a website. I still do the website.
I love it.
Apex, so
I love it.
We've kind of always stayed a small, so funny though, to think of that.
So that's when I started Achieving Abilities. I had a previous, but started Achieving Abilities 4 years ago this month, and it's been great. I love it. you kind of asked about how I got into like CUAP. I always joke that I basically saw Natalie like at meetings and stuff, and I just thought that she was amazing. And I honestly was like, whatever she's doing, I want to follow her. I always joke with her that I'm going to make her my mentor, even though she has no time for me. Because I just think that she really stands up for a lot of things that I also really am passionate about. And I love the way that she's done things in the past. So that's where she started talking to me about, before CUAP was even a name, that there was this organization that she wanted to put together. And I said, heck yeah, I want to be part of that meeting. And then I was part of the first meeting and went from there.
I would just like to show that that's like a genuineness that this has really helped for me. Is CUAP, like, we're just these providers out there on these islands trying to run these businesses, trying to help people get the services, trying to get the services funded, trying to be ethical companies, trying to do all the things. And then you meet another person who's also doing that, because everyone in CUAP is a Utah-owned business. And so that keeps it Utah-owned. It's not people from outside. They can be affiliate members, but they can't be voting members. It really is a Utah advocacy.
And you have to have BCBA too. That's the thing that I love, because there's a lot. I mean, you can read the article. There's a lot with private equity and things like that right now, of course, within our field. But then it's just nice to like have somebody be part of the discussions who actually understands like what we have to go through as BCBAs, and then also what our ethical code is.
So invested in the community, and that the services get better and help more people. And
in the early days of CUAP, what do you feel were the most pivotal or key moments that helped shape your mission and goals?
It was mostly interacting with Medicaid, as I feel like as BCBAs were being recognized as an actual profession, a license. And so when the licensure passed, that was really, I think, the time to say we need to have our own representation. At least in my view, it was a lot of this, like, the only way we're going to be able to fund these services is if we get licensed, we get certified. And so that started kind of before CUAP, but that was, I think, pivotal in everyone realizing that this was having the opportunity to grow and really get funded by insurance companies and other things. So that happened. And then COVID hit.
Yeah, let's talk about COVID for a minute, because you guys had just mentioned, you formed CUAP in 2019.
There were like
2020 hits.
10 members, a 10-member organization.
Right, you had a lot of members. Everybody's excited to get into this. And then COVID hits. I know when COVID hit, UTBS, we stayed open.
Oh, yeah.
Very hard, but we were able to pull it off.
Yeah, we provided services the whole time.
So let's walk through a little bit of the resiliency you guys had there as members and as the leadership. How did you guys get through that?
Well, there were 3 of us that stayed full members, and then there were some affiliate members, people, because no one had any money, so we waived like membership fees.
And Utah Behavior Services actually like used some of like, they had some grant money and actually used it to like cover us for a year, which was really nice. So that was impressive. But yeah, nobody had any money.
Yeah. Nobody had any money. And we just kept meeting and kept talking about it and kept helping each other and kept sharing information about what to do, how to do it, what the rules are, where to find the latest information, how to...
So talking about COVID, how did that help shape your vision, or how did that help shape your vision for CUAP and kind of your adaptability?
Yeah, I think just that we needed to have a coalition of people, that the world of ABA was about to grow just because of services and licensing. And so having that monthly interaction, and then, just having that time to think and talk and see all these moving parts in a different way, be under extreme stress, come out the other end and really say, even during that time, we were able to make a huge difference. And that was also inspiring to see that even though COVID was happening and we were all so busy, just that there were these changes that were happening, and to have ethical, legal providers, we need to help share the information we know from our experience so that they don't make some of the same mistakes we've made as organizations, and also so that they're even aware of what the requirements are, how to get licensed. We were helping providers get licensing because they didn't know how to do it. And so we held workshops to help people. And then just coordinating with the legislature and realizing that legislative impact was super important.
Can you talk specifically to that? Can both of you, where you talk about the advocacy work, how has that significance played a role for your businesses, for the CUAP, for the communities?
So as people might or might not know, the Utah Association for Behavior Analysis, UTABA, is an organization of individual members, but they have no, the way they're set up, they're not able to be involved in political activity at all. They're a 501c3, where we're a 501c6. And so we're able to provide use our resources, our financial resources, towards political campaigns and helping people at the legislature to know what is happening, what even the language means. They don't even know what behavior analysis is. No. They might know autism because a friend has someone, but in terms of knowing the type of service we provide, we really have to educate them and even just help them write the language in the bills. And
that's a very good point, to understand the difference between UTABA and CUAP, where UTABA is more of an individualized organization based on probably more academic and research.
Academic and just the field of being a practitioner, not a business owner, not a business, not a funder, like just the pure, education, science, ABA, what it is. Okay. But then where CUAP diverts is it is really about, well, yeah, this is all great in your philosophical way of doing it, but how are we actually helping people? Providers. And we have to have good providers to be able to help people.
Which is great, because at the same time, not only are you implementing the day-to-day ABA and seeing how it really works, but you're also able to help share those stories to the politicians, to the legislature, to help affect policy, to help strengthen not just families that you're serving now, but families forever, right?
Exactly. Forever.
Exactly.
To have a sustainable, ethical, good quality service in Utah. And that's going to have competition in it, which healthy competition is awesome. But we're also going to be big boys and girls and come together as organizations and say, really, what is our goal? And that's what's nice about this field. And I even feel like at least a lot of the providers, Maria and Natalie and our other members, have just really been awesome at being supportive. And I got off track. That's you'll cut things out when I get just like just talk on.
I think that's one of the biggest things, though, is that as a BCBA, though, we're supposed to, if we can't take cases, like we were talking about collaborating and things like that, if we can't take a case, we're supposed to then refer to other people. And what I like about CUAP is that I can refer to companies that I know the owner, or I know somebody in the higher up, and I can say like, oh, call this one, or this is who you call, or they have openings in this location, like our list that we have of like, where are you located? Do you have any openings? So that we can refer to each other, because there's times where in Utah County, I'm going to be booked. I'm going to be capped. I can't take any more kiddos. But, Breanne might be able to, or you guys might be able to, like Natalie might. And just to be able to like refer a family who's scared, doesn't really know what they're doing. Like they just got a diagnosis. to refer them to somebody that I know is going to most likely take care of them in the most ethical way and professional way. That's the best thing versus just being like, oh, sorry, we don't have an opening. Bye.
Go broad out there on a waiting list.
Exactly. So I think that's like a really big thing.
But yeah, it is. And it's also helpful with employees. Same thing, like we just have held a standard within, and we've created the standard that we just straight up call each other when an employee is applying to their organization or from my organization, like, hey, this person just applied. I just want to be clear, like, is this all above board? Is there anything that, we need to know that's happening? Anything unethical? I think that's important to know if from another business's standpoint, an employee wasn't very ethical. And there have been people who have done that. They've performed in an unethical way that maybe in the short term still provided services to people with their businesses, but they never did the investment in the long term. And that's what's cool about CUAP members is I believe everyone's really invested for the long term. It's not like we're just in here to make a quick buck. We're here to like make the services happen because we genuinely want people to get the help they deserve and like good help for what's going on. Because these families are just out there. They don't know all this stuff that we know we get in these worlds. And so same thing with the legislature. Unless you're making yourself known, you're not getting anything. I think it's been great. A cool thing that's happened with licensing that we did this year at the legislature, which to a lot of people maybe doesn't seem important, but we have been under the psychology board. And when this new bill was presented to have the licensing be under a behavioral health board, so multidisciplinary agencies being under the same licensing board. And we had always been under psychology. Well, we're not psychologists. It's a whole different field, very different delivery model, hours a day. I mean, I don't know, it's just a completely different type of service. And so now we are separated out from psychology as behavior analysis. And that is more in line with even the way our licensing is written. It's just a very standalone service that we provide. And so having that recognition will keep us so that funding for applied behavior analysis remains consistent with psychology, social work, because what happens is because we're such small people in a big sea of fish, all these rate increases will happen for the big sea of fish with cost of living and different things, and ABA will get left behind. And we have been surviving for years on 50, 60% less than other professions that have the same level of requirements for licensing, certification, training, even more in many ways. And that is some of the early work that CUAP did, was putting together data from the organizations and from different things to really reflect what is happening.
I think we were at 30-something% when we first started advocating for this.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. And I mean, that's a really good example too of showing the difference. Like Natalie, again, has been like doing a lot with legislation for a while now with Utah Behavior Services and with Carrie and everything. And if you look back, and I think that she would agree too, that if you look back and see like the impact that she made before when it was just Utah Behavior Services going for things and pushing for things versus since CUAP has been around and it's been all of us together, and how big things have like changed, like how much things have changed now in our field within legislation, like things like higher rates with Medicaid. Medicaid's actually really good right now, and we continue to push to, again, like you were saying, Breanne, like to keep us equal.
Yeah,
that's all we were asking for.
And same thing in treatment plans. Yeah,
exactly.
Equal treatment.
Exactly. And so it's so interesting though, because if you look at, again, Natalie's been doing it for probably like 3, 4, maybe longer years before CUAP came around, versus when CUAP started doing it, it's all of us, and how quickly things are actually like getting better, I feel like. And I think it's just like you said in the beginning, it's banding together. And I think that it's so easy for Medicaid, and I hate to pick on Medicaid. We like Medicaid.
The legislature,
but legislation and other things. It's
insurance, commercial insurance companies, they don't even know how to write. I mean, we've had the opportunity to provide language to the insurance providers, Medicaid, helping with the contract so that it really is written in a way that's going to provide the best services to people. That's also feasible to actually happen, because that's where CUAP's where the rubber meets the road, to say the like to really the service delivery. It's like, it's all great philosophically, but at the end of the day, how do you make it happen? Get it to the people, and you have to have strong infrastructure of ethical, committed, compassionate people. And
well, and it makes sense too, because the impact that you're able to have on the legislature versus if you have one individual coming up to legislators saying, hey, this is what we need, versus a group of unified professionals.
Totally. It's made
completely
a huge
different story.
Total difference in how we were treated at the legislature completely, because there wasn't, a unified force. And when we could pull our data together and say, well, between our member organizations, we're serving like 75% of your clientele. Like, we can't, we're not, let's not ever say that we're unionizing. It's not about that.
No,
it's about like, we're
unifying.
still unifying.
Yeah.
But that was the
and that's our
thing, I think,
uniting providers to impact positive change.
I think one of the first conversations that we had was like frustration over like Medicaid, and it was like about an authorization, and it was so funny because it's like, oh yeah, they're doing the same thing to me, and I'm like, wait, no, they told me that I'm the only provider that's asking for this, and they're like, no. I think it's so easy for insurance companies and for others to go, like you said, one person saying, hey, this is an issue, and it's like, oh, well, you're just one person, like everybody else is fine. And
they're not saying anything.
Because they're not saying
doesn't
anything.
mean they're fine.
or they are saying things and they're just sorry, but lying to us and saying nobody else has a problem with that. And then come to find out we all have a problem with it, and we all have expressed it at different times, maybe to different individuals, but within the same organization. So it's so interesting, and kind of, I want to definitely like toot on your horn for a second here and just say that, like, seriously, Breanne, like when we were looking at Medicaid's manual, because I was up for review, we were going back and forth, and it had been, what, oh gosh, I think since I've been since Medicaid started offering services, we have been talking in different meetings about updating that manual. And Breanne was so amazing. She's like, why don't we just write it for them? Like, instead of like putting these, all this time, all these years, we've been putting like an Excel where it's like, this line, this is what we don't like about it. This is what we want to change it to. This is our justification. Like, so it would be like this whole huge document. And she's like, why don't we just write it for them? I'll just do it, guys. I'm gonna put this in a Word doc, and I'm gonna do this, and then let's all look at it. And we did, and then we sent it to them, and almost exactly what she wrote is what the Utah Medicaid manual is for ABA. And I'm like, for autism services. And I'm like, what? Like, it's just, and they thanked us for it. And it's just so interesting that we can do that. Because sometimes they just need that little help instead of saying, let me give you more work. It's like, this is what we're looking for.
Yeah, it's here. It's directly what we want.
And they added to it and did other things. But I mean, with every meeting.
So it's also not just the problems. It's also building those relationships with people, key players, stakeholders on all ends, whether that be Medicaid.
And that's what's great is that you have different relationships with different individuals, like Natalie does.
Build them different areas.
Yeah, it's like all these different organizations. There's 7 of us right now together, and it's just so great that everybody has different relationships with different individuals, so we can do things like that instead of me having to like all of a sudden be like, hi, I'm brand new to you, let me now tell you what I need. So
you have that relationship to lean on. It's a lot easier to collaborate.
Yeah,
well,
super helpful.
Talking about advocacy work that you have done so far, let's talk a little bit about the future here. What lessons that you have learned up until this point? What is CUAP's primary goals? I mean, where do you guys see yourself in the future? Couple of years, what would you like to see happen?
Yeah, I think just for it to grow proportionally to how many business companies are out there. So as this industry is growing in Utah, seeing our membership grow so that we can all be united and also just, be on the same page with a lot of things and support each other so that it can be as seamless as possible. Certainly just continued, it's hard to sometimes set complete goals. Like the Medicaid manual is great right now, but someone could throw something in tomorrow that is going to change it and make it really hard for us. So by being in a collaboration, we're able to continue to have, I guess, the legislation, policy, bills that we have advocated for to keep them in good standing and a part of the conversation and make sure that just continues to be recognized as a field. But definitely growing membership and also growing, I think we've talked about some growing resources for organizations, trying to do more webinars based on what companies are looking for. So we've done a couple of those, but continue. We're able to be, we're BACB, ACE provider. Thank you. I can. We're an ACE provider. So we're going to be able to provide CEUs for our work. And with RBTs coming up, and then there's going to be this need for
what is it? It's just continuous education.
Continuing education.
So like CEUs for RBTs is going to be a huge thing.
They're going to have to get CEUs. And so for our organizations, that's going to be something that would be really nice to collaborate on. So I would love so that. We could have some quality training, but also have it affordable. So members being able to have that as a resource that we're really connecting to people that can help answer our most important questions. We have a needs survey that's always put up on our website. So providers can complete that, and we just get information off of that as well as those get submitted. And so more education in this, but geared towards a more business perspective versus.
What would your ideal member look like if somebody was interested in joining?
Yeah,
I kind of want to joke and like stare into the camera. If you are an ABA,
this is it. Call to action.
No, basically just an ABA business owner that's like a BCBA that even if you're just starting, even I hate to say like you just have, let's say your LLC, you just have your documentation to start working and you were like, I don't know what to do.
You barely know what to do.
Right.
Or you've done some things a little wrong because you didn't know the rules.
Exactly.
We're a safe place to help you get in compliance, to get in alignment with what the standards are. But definitely someone who's invested in Utah to some degree.
Yes.
I mean, sure, bigger organizations, outside of Utah organizations can be affiliate members, but they can't be full members. So we're really looking for those Utah companies, those people that we know are out there and just don't know what they don't know.
Right.
And really help to bring them into the fold.
I think the other biggest thing too is that I tell this to other owners that I do know that I talk to occasionally that I've maybe had friendships with or things like that throughout the years. But the biggest thing that's different with CUAP than I think with other organizations within the state for BCBAs is that even if you're like, I have zero time, I have no time whatsoever, but I want to put some money towards, like, I want to do something good with the field, or I want to be affiliated with an organization that's doing good, become a member. Like, the money that we get from membership, almost all of it goes to the lobbyists. Almost all of it goes towards going out there and advocating for better services and higher rates and things like that. So if you just, like, even in the beginning, it was harder
And
because
having a quality lobbyist, because I feel like in the past, we did not, I shouldn't say we didn't have quality lobbyists, but because we weren't giving the same attention to it, I think, as a, because there wasn't even CUAP at a certain point. I remember people pulling together some money for lobbyists, but it's just, you have to have representation, and it is not free.
You do.
It is not free. It is and it's a lot of work to get in, to get your name on the list, to get those relationships with people.
And Carrie's amazing at it. Like, Carrie is.
Can we talk about quality? So let's back up a little bit and talk about the quality difference in lobbyists. So let's talk about what Carrie has been able to accomplish.
It's the relationships. It is that Carrie knows people, and he gets in there, and he's able to really.
Well, he was in office, so that makes it a lot better.
He was in office, but it's just, and then he's got this team around him of these amazing people who really are invested, and people with autism and applied behavior analysis. And it was really cool this year to see the team that he did build, because in the past, it's like we maybe had one or two people, we'd kind of get an update, but it wasn't like there was no action. There were no actual meetings happening that were having any stay.
Can we talk about maybe some of the successes you've had with Carrie and like what was accomplished for 2024?
For Carrie specifically. So 2024 was the licensing thing. And when it was put out, Bramble, so it's just these relationships, right? So it's Senator Bramble who introduced the bill.
We were all worried about it. We were
for behavioral health, and he was just able to get him to add our thing immediately. Like, we were one of the first changes to that, and there was just no problem. It's like, applied behavior analysis, and because he had done like this interview before. Did you ever see that interview with Bramble where he was just
I heard about it? Yeah.
And I don't want to see any turf wars, and no one's coming. It's just like this old school Utah senator. I don't know how else to explain it, but and what Carrie did, just building those relationships so that we're able to also give him the exact information he needs for that bill to be successful. The legislatures, they want bills to be successful, and the only way they're going to be successful is if, there's quality people giving them information, like honest people that are giving them information about the services. Because most people on this like social services appropriations committee, they're like good people. They want to be helping. I really do believe that's like a compassionate group of people. But they get a lot of requests for a lot of things. And so you have to come at them with a professional, Carrie can set up the meetings, and he's backed by providers that will then, we'll get the numbers to you. We'll get the graphs to you. We'll talk about what information you need to give to this. This is how we would like the bill to be written. This is the language we want in the bill. He creates the meetings, builds the trust that we're quality organizations, and we're going to be cooperative. We, as CUAP, supported the bill from the beginning, where some other people were pretty fearful of this behavioral health, agents or interdisciplinary team. And we saw it as an opportunity to be behavior analysts and to be recognized as behavior analysts. And that was a really helpful thing that Carrie did. And his team, really. He just has great people, too, that are working with him.
The other thing, though, too, with Carrie is he does a really good job with keeping the door open. And he kind of, like, leads things up, if that makes sense. Like, he, like, sets them up so that it's, like, even this year, talking about, even though our rates didn't increase this year, like they did last year, and we worked really hard on last year, even though they didn't increase this year, it wasn't because of anything that he did, but basically he sets it up so that it's like, okay, well, since there wasn't funding for this year like there was supposed to be so that we're equal, we're going to come back to this next year. Like, and then he kind of like, he does it in such a friendly, sweet, compassionate way. It's like, just remember, we're going to be back next year.
Yeah.
Like, hey, like, see you next year. I'm going to go this way. And I think that works really well. And I think that's the same thing with most of the things that we've been doing with Carrie is that he's really good at knowing, like, even if we're not going to get this year, this is what we are going to look for next year. And he's always asking us questions like, where is it that we want to go? What do we want to see? So that he understands what to be advocating for, even if it's not going to be immediate.
Yeah. I mean, it was pretty obviously that we needed equal treatment. I mean, it is, to me, it's just, what's the right word? I mean, more than just unethical, it's just abhorrent that Medicaid was having people with autism not having access to a service that they need simply because that's their diagnosis and what works for them.
Right.
And it was by including us in that to get that funding and to get equal reimbursement. Why do you deserve a lesser service just because of your diagnosis? That was literally the problem. Like, if you had the autism diagnosis, the services that you access were reimbursed at a much, much lower rate.
So what kind of people are you actually getting? What professionals are you having come in if you're not able to even pay them like what somebody working at McDonald's is making? Like, if you can't, like, what are you going to get?
Competitive mental health professions. How are we going to get
I'm not even
people
on
to
that
be like
side. Yeah.
BCBAs if they don't see a path forward? If there's no, like,
exactly.
oh, well, I could be a BCBA and work, you know, for 60% of doing mental health therapy. And now we've got that pretty close to balance. And that has been a lot of work with CUAP. Where we go from here, maintain balance, right?
Yes.
But we've been in this push the last few years that we've kind of plateaued a little, and we just need to make sure we maintain and don't get cut out of any of this. And that's where Carrie is going to be there and his team's going to be there, and they're going to hear things, because a lot of things happen like just because you're there and hanging out and talking and
behind closed doors,
meeting
in the
with
middle
people
of the night when none of us are watching. Yeah.
I don't know.
It kind of seems like that sometimes.
So let's shift gears a little bit. So we talked about how the benefits, like what your ideal member looks like, and then let's shift over to what are the actual benefits for those members to run their business, to help advocate, to help grow the field. Can you name just a couple of the benefits?
Well, yeah, certainly they're going to be a member of our monthly all-member meetings, which is where members are all able to bring issues to the table, and they're able to get the updates they need. We also send those out electronically so people can't attend the meeting, but really getting those updates on what is happening that's going to affect your business. Like, we're going to hear about it. We're going to be gathering that information.
Are you dealing with anything currently that you could share?
I mean, in terms of education, it's just that webinars and making sure that we're getting information to the owners or high management of a company that they need quickly. Pretty quickly, I think we can get you important information that's coming from the legislature, that's coming from Medicaid, that's coming from these different avenues that if you're not on the right listserv, you're not going to even know about. And so
we're just trying to advocate more for more members, because our membership actually ends in May and starts up again in June. So this is like the perfect time. So that's something we are definitely working on a lot, is just getting out there more. I think that people kind of know who we are and what we're doing, but maybe they have questions, and that's where we do have an open meeting on May 2nd at 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. And if you want a link, you can always just
hop in, see who's there.
You can email one of us, and
we'll include the link in the
perfect. Yeah.
That would be great.
I'm like, I checked the email, and I'm like, I think support at UtahABAproviders.com. Oh my gosh, I remember the email.
Support at UtahABAproviders.com.
Yeah, I never get to say that apparently. But yeah, so that's a really big one right now. Is that open forum where they can ask questions if they have anything that they are curious about or anything like that.
And that'll direct, who we get or try to access. It would be nice to be able to pay a stipend so that we can get more quality people to do what not everyone wants to do them for free. So if you can provide a little bit of a stipend, I think we can maybe get some other professions in.
For webinars.
Yeah, for webinars, because we have more resources, or to just make that more professional for people to have the, support in place to, it costs to become an ACE provider to be able to do these different things. So providing that for our peers and so that they can have some resources. And like we were talking about, the RBT stuff is a really important thing for us to be keeping our eye on and keeping eye out for. What we need to have a group together to be able to, I think, implement so that RBTs can get a lot of their CEUs through CUAP, that we can bring in some people that could give them a really good experience and have some webinars and such, so that there's that additional resources of people that are, we're all saying, this is someone we like, or
Right.
like good.
Well, I want to thank both of you for coming and spending the time with us to kind of go over what CUAP is, how you got here, and then where it's going. So is there any last remarks you'd like to say, either to the viewers, to potential members?
Come to our open meeting for sure. Ask questions. I guess one thing.
When is it again?
May 2nd.
May 2nd at 4 p.m. Okay. We'll put the link in the podcast.
It's just finding those owners too, making sure finding those people. So if anyone knows anyone too, or I think if you're not the owner of the company you work at, or you're not the director, but you hear about us and you think, oh, that may be great for my agency, because I'm working in a different area of it. I'm working on the billing side of this, and I don't feel like I have the support or understanding, or we can support in those areas that aren't just be practice related, but service, the actual service delivery.
It's a side of it. I think something that I feel like we have pointed this out a lot, but with CUAP, the biggest thing is resources. As an owner, like, I can't go to every single meeting. I can read every email that comes to me, but I can't sign up for every single newsletter and read every single one of those. There's just no way. There's not enough hours in the day. I can't go to every single conference. And I think that by all of us going to different things, some of us going to the same things, but we come back with information, or, hey, there's this great resource. And the other thing that I know Breanne noted, and towards like the middle, was really, if you have a question, even if you think it's such a dumb question, and
Totally,
and it's just like, oh my gosh, I'm about to show that I'm completely unethical, you can ask the question in the meeting. You can ask the question one-on-one to one of the members and get to know other business owners within Utah. I think that's so valuable, because I know that I've asked questions that I'm like, okay, don't hate me for this, but like, are you guys talking about this? And they're like, no, we're talking about, have you not done this? And I'm like, no. What is it? Tell me right now. Where do I go? And they're like, do this. And then even
and
like,
you do it, and you're in compliance, and it's great.
And even just being so supportive with that, it's amazing that, like, I know that I've asked questions about things, and like other owners have been like, oh, let me get you in contact with this person on my admin. And I've done the same thing. Like, we've had members that have asked about, how do you do PRISM? I don't understand PRISM for Medicaid and becoming enrolled. It's like, so then I sat down with them, and luckily I had my my
PRISM
admin person. Yeah, sitting next to me. I call her my girl Friday, Kelly. Shout out to Kelly. But sitting next to me, and we just went through it with them and went through it line by line. And because I don't want to share, like, here's all of our documentation, but let me show you, like, okay, that's talking about this. Do you have this? No, where would I find that? You would find it here. And just kind of going through that, which I think a lot of times people come back and they go, sorry, I asked so many dumb questions. And I'm like, there's no dumb questions. We all had these same questions. We had no idea what to do. But yeah, resources and asking silly things that we think we should know, but we don't know everything.
Not one person. It really does take a village.
Right.
And I feel like we've got a good village of people, and just want to see that grow as just Utah's growing. Like, we just are such a growing place. We really have been.
Right.
It's just incredible to see the growth. And, you know, there was a day where I just naturally, and I'm sure Natalie, UTBS, even you just knew owners because you knew them, because you kind of have went to school with them, or, you know, but as the industry has grown, and like, I don't know, like, what would you say? How many more companies are there than even 5 years ago? We should like see what that comparison is.
We can make a pretty graph.
I mean,
graphs or BCAs.
yes,
Let's make a great graph.
Yes, that's why we're great for policy, because we can really give them.
We'll show you the
Honestly.
visuals. It's okay.
Here you go, Carrie.
Right, Carrie, here's our stuff.
I know. I'm always like, Carrie, what do you do? He does a lot of this, like, not data, which is way helpful for behavior analysts, because we are data people and not everyone is.
We want to give him all the data. And he's like, that's too much data. That's too much. Let's not do that.
But really, I promise this is,
All right. I love it.
Well, great. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate you guys being here and sharing your stories and sharing what CUAP is. So, yeah, we'll get.
Thank you guys for doing this. It's really great.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Bridging the Gap. If you want to collaborate with us, you can email us at bridgingthegap@utbs.co. For more resources or information on ABA treatment, go to utahbehaviorservices.com and check us out on social media at Utah Behavior Services. Also, if you're interested in any of the CUAP information in this podcast, please click the link below.